Hello, friends and family of First Christian Church, Tyler, Texas. I'm Reverend Ginger Brandt. This is Rob Mason, and we are back again, dropping back in, hoping that you will one day find this conversation on spiritual practices. We're in the last leg of this thing that we've been doing all through Lent. We've got two more things to talk about. We're going to break them up into two different videos for you. But right now, I believe we're up to the topic of hospitality. How, pray tell, is hospitality a spiritual discipline that Christ followers practice?
Right. I think some of the other things that we've talked about are a little more obvious. They're things that you can take 15 or 30 minutes or an hour out of your day to focus on and to do, to try to increase your spiritual connection or deepen your spiritual life.
And they're solo things, right?
Right.
They're personal.
Right. But hospitality, I think, is more of a holistic approach to the spiritual life. It's more than hosting a party or having friends over or whatever. Certainly you can practice hospitality in those settings. But hospitality as a spiritual discipline is more akin to just how we intentionally make other people feel safe and comfortable and welcome. The ideas of what it means to be hospitable. How do we do that for all of the other people around us every minute of every day?
In all the spaces we inhabit.
In all the spaces and all the interactions. That's big. That's broad.
Big.
That's why it's more of a holistic approach.
Okay, it's a tall order, but I see how we can break this down by first noticing that there is an other. Sometimes you've been it. Sometimes you just need to recognize that you're not it. But that seems like a start, right? You recognize where there is someone other than you who might be having a different life experience, perceiving things differently than you. And then you wonder, what do they need to feel welcome in this space that you're both in? Right.
So, hospitality is built off that same set of words. It's like hospice or hospital. It's about a safe place, right? Having a safe space, a comfortable space. And so when we think about hospitality in our homes, we think about making other people, feel, our guests,
safe
feel
and
welcome and comfortable. So that's kind of what it is across the whole spectrum of life. I think perfection, right, is not the goal. Like being able to do this every moment of every
24 hours a day,
is not the goal. I think more likely the goal is to be aware of the moments when we are able to offer hospitality to someone else, offer welcome and safety and comfort to someone else.
Right. Because certainly the world could use more of that.
Right.
We know.
And as we talked about before, we're doing this practice Lent during the season of Lent 2024. We're meeting as a group, a small group, and talking about these practices, and then going out and trying to experience them, investigate them in a way that will help add to our spiritual life going forward. We hope that if you're watching this, you decide to do it at any time, you can encounter this at any time, and that it will deepen your spiritual life. And so
you have practices for us.
Well, we talked a little bit this week about how to practice hospitality, which I think is way more nebulous than, say, practicing centering prayer or fasting or one of those kinds of disciplines. So I don't know. I gave it some thought.
I think you have a practical idea. Yeah. I've tried it. I've test run this. So
the things that I came up with were to just kind of observe our lives daily and make a list of, one, the places where I felt like I could be more hospitable, that I could be more spiritually in tune with my neighbor, stranger, friend, enemy, whoever I'm interacting with. And then the other side of that was to kind of notice and make a list of the places where I felt uncomfortable, unwelcome, that when the world was inhospitable, what would have made it more hospitable? What would have made it more comfortable? And then can I integrate those practices into my life? Because if I feel uncomfortable at times, then it's for sure, right, that everybody probably feels out of place.
Right, somewhere, somehow.
Somewhere, sometime, feel out of place. And what we want from a hospitable world is to feel like we belong to this place. This is our space. And so how can I help other people to feel that sense of belonging? And one way is to say, well, when I felt like I didn't belong, what was going on there? And how can I integrate a different practice into my life that would make it better for the people that I interact with?
Because we can all be more of what we've needed in the past, right?
Sure, yes. Yeah.
So I tried this exercise. Okay, I'm going to need the notes so I don't forget. But I tried just a quick list of places I think I can be more hospitable, and then places where I felt I've needed hospitality. And I kind of surprised myself in a few minutes. Not an exhaustive list, not done with the exercise yet. But I of course, thought of my neighborhood. Okay, that's kind of obvious. And then I thought, well, what about my actual front door? What about the place where daily almost a package gets delivered, where the mail that doesn't fit in the mailbox has to go? What about one of those little signs of thanks? What about, the basket of snacks? There are literally practical, concrete things I could do to make my house more hospitable to the people who need to use my home to get their work done every day. Thought about that. Then I have kids' schools. I have all the different groups of parents who interact with my kids in schools, the teaching staff specifically. One group of parents that I'm involved with is the sporting parents who all have kids on the same team as my kid. That's a group where really we have nothing in common and don't, except for these children, except for these youth. We don't know each other. We don't even really know each other's first names. We sometimes can get a last name because it connects to the tennis player's last name that's on the jersey, That's a group that's like ripe for someone to weave us tighter together, and I wouldn't have thought about it if I hadn't been intentional to think about it. Places I routinely shop because whether people know my name, they definitely know my face and my habits. The people who check me out at Brookshire's, they know what I buy because I buy the same things all the time, and they're the same people all the time. The people at Walgreens, they know me. It's close to my house. I just thought about, have I ever considered that they're a group or that they're like a society? Because if I think of them not just as a transaction, but as a place I build community, then my 5-minute trip to Walgreens is totally different. It's not really based on the same things as, getting in and out as quick as possible.
Right.
So then there are places, even the roads of Tyler, I think, I certainly stand to be more hospitable there. Make more room for other people. That's a literal thing I could do better in the mom van.
I mean, just driving over here, several people were trying to kill me on the road.
Okay, yeah, they were not hospitable.
They were not, but I immediately adopted an inhospitable attitude myself back. And then I was immediately convicted of that. I was like, oh, that's not why did I
Here we are.
That person?
Yeah. Well, you have to think about it first before you can stop it, right?
All of a sudden, yes.
Yeah. Then I realized I visit my mother twice a week at a dementia care facility where there are both like patients, there are caregivers, and then there are admin workers. There's 3 different circles of folks who are all their own societies. Those are places where I can increase hospitality for sure.
Yeah.
There's also residents I just stumble into on the way to where she lives. There's a whole nother class of residents who live independently. That's a big list. And just think places we have needed hospitality. This gets really convicting fast because I bet if we're honest and we've had any kind of life experience for very long, we're going to say church is one of the places. Some church somewhere is a place we've needed hospitality in a way we might not have received it. Fair?
Right. Yes.
I definitely put church high on my list.
Yes. Yeah. And maybe as a way to wrap up this session, I will just say that in the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, as in other denominations too, but specifically in the one that we're a part of, we've made communion central to the practice of worship. And for a number of reasons, but one of those reasons is that Christ's table is open to everyone, that everyone is welcome there. And if you feel like you don't belong, this is a place where there is a space for you.
You definitely do.
And you definitely belong. And that is the idea of, that's God showing hospitality to us, and the idea of taking that as a spiritual practice or discipline out into the world is to kind of create that kind of welcoming space for everyone that you encounter, for
Even on Broadway.
yeah, in all parts, yes. Even when you're driving down the road, even when you come into church,
Yeah.
At the school, or when you're on the phone with customer service or whoever,
Right.
whatever you're doing,
Right.
there is a moment there to be aware of what's hospitable, what's inhospitable, and how can I be the conveyance of
Right. Be more of what you need.
right, God's love and grace and forgiveness and hospitality to a wanting world. Because clearly the world is an inhospitable place, and what it could use is
Yeah.
some more people thinking hospitably when they're out there. So
Good neighbors. Absolutely. I hope that gives you some things to think about. I hope the idea of making lists is a good practical step you could take. And we'll be back again with one more conversation on spiritual practices. Thanks, friends.